Welcome to a new video in my home automation series, and today I'm going to review another Sonoff product which is called the Dual Release 3. That's the unit that you can see here. And I have to admit that I haven't done my homework before I received this product, because when I've seen that, okay, getting a Dual for a review, I know that there has been a product which is called the Dual, and there was this, slightly larger one with two outputs. So I said, okay, there is a new release 3 version of it, so it can handle two outputs. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like two Sonoff Minis together. But I haven't realized that this unit is a lot more than that, because in here, Sonoff managed to squeeze everything that you can think of in, and probably even the kitchen sink. So this unit is pretty much in par with, for example, the Shelly 2.5 PM or one of the small Blitzwolf unit, which is also have two outputs. So as the name suggests, Sonoff Dual is a device which can support two outputs. So you have two outputs here, which the device can switch separately. So this is pretty much like what the previous Dual was. It also has switch inputs. So you can connect the physical switch in here to S1 and S2. So in that regard, it feels like, two Sonoff Minis sandwiched into a single unit. But what Sonoff also managed to put into that this device also monitors the power consumption of both of the outputs separately. So it is like a two output Sonoff POW. And what Sonoff also managed to do, which is probably one of the biggest thing, that it can operate these two outputs completely individually, just like if you have, for example, two lights or two sockets that you want to control using your smartphone. But it can also use these outputs as an up-down for a shutter roller. So the roller motors, which usually have two inputs for up and down motion. So this is why I said they managed to squeeze in the kitchen sink as well, because this unit is pretty much the Swiss Army knife of smart controls. It can control lights, sockets, blind motors, and that can also measure power consumption. And all comes in a small form factor, obviously, because it has the switch inputs. The idea behind is that it gets tucked behind your switch plate in the wall, and because of the small size, it's going to fit in those switch boxes that you have in the wall. So I've already talked about the features, so let me just cover the unboxing as well. Not much to talk about it. It comes in one of these new style teal or turquoise boxes. So it says Dual R3, and it says all the things on the side as well. So it has the remote control and the timers and the countdowns, and also the power monitoring, which to be honest, I haven't expected. So that was a complete surprise for me. You are getting this feedback. Oh, sorry, not QC pass. There is the usual leaflet type manual, which comes in, it's really short, it comes in multiple languages, and on one side it talks about how you pair the device, and on the other side it talks about how you operate it. But most importantly, it has the wiring diagrams, and I think this is what we are going to use the most. And as I said, I haven't done my homework, which means that I don't have a shutter motor with me, so I won't be able to fully physically test this device. I mean, well, I would be able to test it. You won't see, shuttles going up and down, but I think you will get the idea and you will understand how you can use this device. As I said, the device itself looks like this. So we have all the inputs and the outputs here, and you have the two switch terminals. There is a button to reset, and we have a couple of status LEDs. So we have a status for the Wi-Fi, and we also have status LEDs for the two outputs. And there is nothing else on the other side, and you have this clip which comes off. So this has screw mounts, so you can screw it onto your wall or stud and then just clip it there. But it actually also have these clips, so this can go on a DIN rail. So if you need to mount it in a cabinet. So all sorts of various mounting options for this device. I've done the pairing of this device already, and as you can see, the Sonoff Dual appears on my screen. And before I go into the details, I just want to mention that the pairing is a slightly bit different, because we are not going to use the quick pairing option, but this unit uses the Bluetooth pairing. So you have to select this one, and then you follow the on-screen instructions. So it's going to tell you just to make sure that your LED is blinking, which it will if you long press this button. But if you're powering it for the first time, it will go into pairing mode as well. And then you just follow the on-screen instructions, and it's going to be added to your application quite quickly. And as I said, it comes in various different modes, and at the moment it is configured for the blind motor mode. So let me just go into the settings and change the working mode back to switch mode. And if I do that, for some reason I need to confirm that I disconnected the motors before I start switching the various options. So if I do that now, it is just like a regular 2-channel, for example, mini. Okay, so let me start from the beginning now. So it's a new device, it gets added to your screen, and of course you'll see the 2 inputs. So this is the default mode, as I said, the switch mode, and I've also overlaid the wiring diagram here. So it is fairly simple, everything is nicely labeled here. So you have the neutral in and you have 2 lives in, which are internally connected together, so you don't have to use both of them if you don't want to. So that's where you are feeding in your fixed mains voltage, as I'm doing it right now. And then your 2 switch input, S1 and S2, is connected to these 2 terminals, and they are switching the live current, just like in a normal household wiring. So unlike the Mini, you actually are switching the mains voltage here to the Sonoff Dual. And of course you have the live out 1 and the live out 2, so that's what you would connect to 2 of the light bulbs. So the wiring diagram is really, really simple. And of course I'm being very careful not to touch any of the terminals, because these could be live. They are much more recessed than the Sonoff Mini, but still, you can stick your finger in it. But obviously this is not designed to be exposed, so this should be installed within the wall or somewhere where nobody can reach it. And you can see this, you have a blue status LED just to show you that it's connected to the Wi-Fi. And if I start switching the outputs, there is a very faint red status LED which is showing that the outputs are on. It is really faint in real life as well, and I'm not sure how much it is coming through the camera, but you can probably see the 2 red status LEDs. So that's pretty much it. Let's just go through the functions here on the main screen. Nothing is going to surprise us right in the beginning. We have the usual schedule, so you can add schedules when the device should turn on and off, and you can of course set it whether you want it on channel 1 or channel 2, and of course you can have multiple of these. And if you have turned on any of the channels, you can also set a countdown timer which is going to activate when you set it, and then you have to set it every time when you want this countdown to trigger. So this is something that you can do manually, so I'm not going to set anything else. You also have the consumption data, and you have it, as I said, separate for channel 1 and the channel 2. And because I'm just playing around with this, it doesn't have any load connected to the output. It is definitely showing the voltage, but there is no power or current because, well, obviously nothing is connected to it. But as you can see, it measures amps, it measures power, it also measures real power, reactive power, and apparent power. And it also shows you the data in a chart. And you also have this option, I think we have seen this with POW, that you can set a start and a stop timer, and it's going to measure the power consumption in between those 2 periods. So I don't want to do that, so I'm going to switch it off. But you can see the power consumption for both of the channels as well, and you have the history as well, and you can change between various months, and you can see how much your device was consuming in that month or the previous month. And what I haven't mentioned, that besides the schedule and the timer, you also have the loop timer. So you have one single screen for the loop timer, so you have to decide whether you want to use the loop timer on channel 1 or channel 2. And you can specify this alternate on-off cycle, how much you want the device to be on and off, and then it's going to run 24/7. Well, it's going to run this cycle 24/7. So this is how the switch mode looks like. So you can use this in, for example, if you have a chandelier which has 2 separate outputs, so you would have 2 switches, one for one of the circuits in the chandelier and the other one for the other, and you can just operate them separately using switches, or of course you can use it in the app. Or you don't necessarily have to use the switch input. If you, for example, connect it to like a double outlet on your wall, you can just use the app to turn those outlets on and off. And if I go into the settings, I need to cover that now before I switch to the other modes. So you can see that you can rename the channels, you can give it different names, you can assign the location, so which house or room the device is in, you can share it across users, and then the working mode is set to switch mode. And also what you can do is you can set what is the external trigger mode. That's basically the type of the switch which is connected to the which is connected to the S1 and the S2 inputs. And as you can see, you have three options. If you have a push switch, so this is the momentary switch, like a door exit switch, you can use that one. So you click and it returns back to the original position. Or you have the edge switch, which is your regular, sort of like on-off switch, and it's going to detect when you flip it from one position to another, and it's going to change the state. And you also have this following mode, and you can read it on the screen that it's actually going to follow the physical state of the switch. Like, if you push it on the up side to be on and the down to be off, it's going to follow those modes. I think probably the most useful mode is the edge mode because, obviously if you start using your phone as well or automation to switch the lights on and off, then I think it just makes more sense for the edge mode. But it's really up to your personal preference. And within the switch mode, there is also an OPS option. So this is the over power protection, where you can specify what would be the, let's say, the maximum power when this device should turn off. So let's say, I don't know, 100 watts. So if it's sensing more than 100 watts on this output, it's going to shut that output off. So this is more like a protection feature. Of course, power and current are interchangeable. If you assume that your voltage is fixed, you can also do it on voltage. I don't know if maybe you have a voltage spike and you want to protect your devices, you can use the voltage as well. I don't know how fast it reacts to, sudden changes in either power or voltage. So this is the overpower protection, and you can set it separately for for a channel 1 and channel 2 as well. And of course, don't forget to save it when you made the changes. You can receive push notification if this is getting changed, and you also have the logs, so you can see, who was switching that switch, especially if you have multiple users. That can be useful. The rest of the screen is just statistics and IDs of the device, so you can't change anything here. So that was the switch mode. So let's switch to the motor mode. So working mode, and then I'm going to switch it to motor mode. I don't have switch settings, so I have motor settings, but in this motor settings, I have a switch setting again. So you can have a single switch where you're going to operate your blinds using a single switch. So it's like a garage door opener. So if your blinds is up, you push it once, it will start to go down. If you press it again, it will stop. If you press it again, it goes up again. So that's a single one. I think the most common use is the dual momentary switch. So you have a switch which you can push up and down, but then it returns to the mid position. So you push it up and then it goes up, and then you push it down and it goes down. And of course you can also reverse them, how they operate in the app or within the switch itself. So if you accidentally wire your motors the wrong way around, you can change the behavior in the app instead of rewiring it. So it's really up to you. Or also you have these three-way rocker switches, which then, it doesn't return to the middle position, but you flick it one way and it stays up, or it stays down. And so that's the three-way rocker switch. And actually there is an interesting feature here in the EV-Link app. You see this option here which says calibrate motor. Normally what you do, this is what I have seen for the Shelly and also for the Blitzwolf, is you need to set a runtime. So how long it takes for your blinds to go up or down. So you can't do it here. What you can do is, what you should actually be doing is you have to calibrate your motor. So you have to connect the motor, and then the unit is going to run this motor up and down. And I'm guessing, unfortunately I don't have a spare motor to test it, but I think what it's doing, it is going to run the motor in both directions for I don't know how many, probably for a couple of minutes, and then it's going to measure the power consumption, because usually the way these blind motors are set up, they have internal limit switches. So once they reach the top position, they will switch off, and because it has power consumption measurement, and the unit itself is going to notice that the motor stop drawing current from, on the output. So it would know that your blind has reached either the topmost or the bottommost position. And then based on that, it will calculate the time, how long it takes to go up and down. And this is how it's going to determine what position your blind is. Okay, so as soon as you switch it to motor mode, you can see that the user interface changes. Well, you have three buttons. One says up, so that's going to turn the up output on. You can see it's output number 1. You can stop it, and then and that's going to turn the other output on. So this is how it operates. And because I haven't done the calibration, the open close percentage is not showing, but you can also drag this slider here if you want to set your blinds to a certain percentage. So it works just like with any other sliders. It remembers the position, it knows where your slider is because it has done the calibration up front. And you can do schedules here as well. So you can specify that I want to open my blinds, or I want to close them, or I want to open or close them to a certain percentage. So set them to a certain percentage. So you can have a schedule that, when you wake up at 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning, the blind goes up like, 20%, just to let a little bit light in. And then maybe after 10 minutes, it's going to open up fully. And then it's also going to go down in the evening. And you still have power consumption here. Of course, you don't have separate power consumption because it doesn't make sense. So it just gets an average power consumption on output 1 and output 2. And when you are in the blind mode, you still have all the settings. So you have the push notification, and you have the over power protection as well. And actually there is a third option as well, which is the meter option, which is a funny one, because what it does, let me just change to that option. So if I save in the meter option, you will notice that the relays come on. So that basically permanently switches on both of the outputs. So you can't switch the outputs, but your main screen also changes to your consumption screen. So if you only want to use this to monitor power consumption on device, you can just change it to meter mode. The output will stay on continuously, and you have a different screen. And that's the big difference between this mode and, let's say, the switch mode. Actually, this is not all the difference between the different modes, because what I've also noticed that the automations or the scenes are also dependent on which mode the device is on at the moment. So let me go into the scenes. So if I want to see what triggers this unit supports, and if I click on Add and Smart Device, what I'm going to notice that the Dual is not here. So it is not offering any triggers. And if I go into the action side, so again, Smart Device, then I don't see the Dual here either. So in power mode, it is not really doing anything. It just, it's just monitoring power consumption and saving those, historical data on the cloud so you can view it in the app. So if you want to use this, you won't be able to use the scenes. But if I go back to my device now, and if I change the mode, let me just change the working mode to switch. It's going to turn off the outputs now. So it's a normal switch mode now. So if I go back to my scenes, add, let's see the triggers, Smart Device. As you can see, Dual is available now. So I can create a scene whenever either channel 1 or channel 2 got turned on, either by the switch or by the app. So that's fine. And if I look at the actions as well, then I'm going to notice it's pretty much the same. You can also use other devices to turn the Sonoff Dual on and off, and you can specify whether it's going to be channel 1 or channel 2. So that's straightforward. So in a normal switch mode, it uses the switch functions. Unfortunately, it would have been nice if you can also do a trigger on the power consumption, but that's not offered at the moment. So let me go back to the device and switch it back to motor mode again. So I have it switched back to motor mode. So if I go out, scenes, plus, let's check the triggers again, Smart Device, Dual. So now it is different. So instead of channel 1 and channel 2, of course they are combined. So I can set up a trigger if the blind is fully open or fully closed or set to a certain percentage. And if I look at the action side as well. So smart device dual, I can pretty much do the same. So again, you can use the scene as well to set the your blinds to a certain percentage. So maybe you have a separate button, you have a button downstairs, for example, a Sonoff Touch or a T1, and when you click that, you set up an automation that it's going to set all your blinds to, you know, fully open or fully closed. So you are in a physically different location, and you can use another smart device to control your blinds. For example, from downstairs, you can open up all the blinds in the upstairs, and you can easily do that with scenes. Okay, I was hoping that this is going to be a short video because, as I said in the beginning, I thought this is just a regular, you know, dual smart switch. But as it turns out, with the motor mode and also the power consumption, it is actually a lot more capable than what I've originally thought it would be. If you like this device, I'm going to leave purchasing links in the video description. But that will be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.